Hey, how's it going, guys? This is your boy Hazzed, and today I'm going to be giving you guys the Frost Death Knight guide to PvP and some PvE insight. We're going to be including talents, rotation, how to go about involved in certain situations, approaching, self-healing, artifact weapons, things like that. This is going to be like the complete guide for level 110. So let's jump into this, guys. Now, there's multiple ways you can go about doing builds to produce better situations for a Frost DK, so I will go about kind of explaining some of these. I may not hit all of them as I don't really care for one of the specs. I do really enjoy the one I'm going to be explaining here. This spec, not only will it give you high DPS in PvE, but it's going to give you high damage and extremely high burst in PvP when you learn how to use it. Now, I've noticed a lot of people have trouble with the base rotation of it. It seems to be kind of challenging to them since you really have to manage runic power, which can be hard for a lot of people in PvP since you are focusing on a target that's casting, moving, running away. You're going to have to interrupt, use your anti-magic cell, get out of stuns, things like that. So you got to be reacting while you're doing this. So that's why I practice this a lot in PvE. A lot killing bosses. And once I got it down perfect where I can hold a breath for 50, 60 seconds, it got so much easier in PvP because I barely have to focus on it. Like, I can just feel when I need to hit it. Like, the timing is down. Kind of just muscle memory at this point, I'd have to say. But anyways, talking about the talents, we're going to be running level 56. It's Murderous Efficiency, obviously, because it's going to generate a rune. Consuming a killing machine, and if it generates a rune, obviously we'll get another obliterate equals more runic power, equals a longer breath. As you can see, the level 100 talent, we're using Breath of Sintragosa. As you know, it deals continuous damage and requires runic power to use, and consistently drains a small amount of runic power, so you have to keep it up. Murderous Efficiency complements that. Horn of Winter does the same thing, basically. It generates 2 runes and generating 10 runic power. Now, you think this is kind of minor, but what this does is there's some gaps within your rotation of Obliterate that Horn of Winter fits into 2 times, like, perfectly to extend it out to that maximum potency of killing somebody with the breath, obviously. Alright, so level 58 talents. Now, Avalanche is absolutely amazing, guys. If you want to generate just more damage overall and not have such a long breath, you can go with Avalanche or Freezing Fog for the level 57 talent. That increases the Howling Blast damage. And, of course, you can be rocking Avalanche, which will increase your burst since it causes jagged icicles to fall on somebody during your Pillar of Frost. So if you just want more now burst for, like, blowing up healers and stuff for PvP, you can definitely go Jagged Frost. But I'm using Hungry Rune Weapon, of course, to keep breath up longer. Now, usually if you want to generate maximum pressure, just gnarly burst all at once, you're going to want to take the normal one. So you're probably going to want to use Avalanche since it'll generate runes instantly and give you runic power that you can dump into somebody. Now, Hungry Rune Weapon is going to give you runes, of course, and runic power over time. So you're not just maximized out on runic power, wasting a ton of it like you would with the other one. This one slowly generates it so you can keep it up, use your obliterates kind of spaced out a little bit, and really maximize damage with the breath. So obviously that's why it all just kind of comes together. Now for PvP, level 60 talent, if I was doing like arena or something like hardcore and I needed CC, I may take Blinding Sleet. But as for just stunning and stuff, I like taking Winter's Coming. Like, I love the stun. It's absolutely amazing. It's how you get your burst off so well. It's how you just blow people up. You really got to get that stun off. And for, let's see here. No, not gonna use those. As for the level 70 talent, I like to use either Volatile Shields for PvP or White Walker. I'm using Permafrost right now because I'm out PvEing in the world and it actually absorbs 30% damage, melee damage, auto attacks. So, I mean, it's good for that. Otherwise, no, not really. Because auto attacks, they're just auto attacks. It's really not that much. Probably, if I was in arena, I'd probably go White Walker, tell you the truth, because it's going to be damage reduction. Damage reduction is going to be definite key for peeling off and getting away from people. Well, anti-magic shell could also be good if I was facing like caster cleaves. Maybe on like a rogue team, White Walker, rogue pops out, pop White Walker, get away from the rogue. I mean, could be quite well for peeling. All right, So the level 90 talent, I'm using Runic Attunement on obviously because auto attacks generate 1 runic power. And as you know, if we're rocking this spec and we're just stacking the living credit out of haste, it's going to cause our attack speed and stuff to be faster, causing us to generate more runic power, elongating our breath even longer. So the more gear we get, the better this spec gets, the longer it's going to last, the more power you can pump out. So that is definitely one of the things I'm looking forward to while gearing out this spec. Now, if you want more like trash DPS for PvE, like just killing mobs and stuff, Frost Scythe will amp up your consistent DPS if you want to run that. But again, if you want to maximize single target damage on bosses and stuff, you got to take Runic. Yeah, this one. Not even gonna try. All right, Breath of Sindragoza, of course, because that's just the way you're gonna do it. Because that's the way we do it. All right. So as for DPS. I'd have to say on bosses generally right now, I'll give you a little down low on my gear. I'm pumping out over 200k plus DPS on bosses. With like Lust and stuff going, I think I got up to about 260k plus. Pretty good damage, I'd have to say. I'm only 805 item level that I'm wearing right now. I've got like 800 plus gear for just about every slot, I think, besides my bracers. So we're getting up there. We're starting to get geared. Soon enough, once I'm done, I was doing world quests and stuff to get the extra little pieces of gear. I'm trying to fill those slots, and of course, killing the little not world bosses, the rare spawns to fill some of the slots to get up into heroics to jump into some PvP. And you're wondering why I'm doing this PvE to PvP, guys. Your power is scaled slightly on item level, so the higher your item level, the slight strength buff you're going to have over the other players. So obviously, any strategic PvPer is going to gear up really fast in PvE right now and then switch over to PvP, since PvP gear is only 820 item level currently, and you can get up to like 850 mythic gear for PvE. So as you can see, it transfers over. Yeah, so that's why I'm doing this. I'm having a lot of fun experiencing a lot of the expansion PvE too, though. But anyways, guys, so I'm doing nice DPS. I'm doing DPS that would be okay in heroics. Definitely when I pick up more gear, I'll be able to go into mythics just fine with this spec. You can keep the breath up long enough that it's very effective, guys. And of course, once you use that breath and it starts lasting over a minute, you can basically instantly pop your next set of Pillar of Frost cooldowns and keep up your consistent damage. And then, of course, after that 1 minute cooldown's up, your next breath is up. So you go right back into the breath cycle again. Really strong, guys. That's going to be the spec we're going to be running for PvE and PvP that I'm going to. Unless I'm doing Arena and I need to generate more now damage, guys, I may switch around Freezing Fog and Avalanche to put out some more pressure. Other than that, a spec people like to play, they like to go Shattering Strikes for some more consistency. They like to go Freezing Fog. Sometimes take Ice Cap. I wouldn't. I'd take Avalanche over that for that rotation anyways. And then they go down. They take Winter is Coming, obviously. They probably take Volatile Shield or White Walker. And probably Runic. Yeah, probably that. And then they go Obliteration, which is more like a melee DPS consistent spec. Definitely not nearly as high peak damage. You won't keep up with them single target. I mean, they won't keep up with the breath spec single target when it comes to PvE on bosses. Definitely not. This spec blows them away when it comes to PvE. So that's why I'm running it. As for the PvP talents, guys, we're going to be running Gladiator's Medallion for the trinket to get out of PvP stuns. Obviously, it's OP. As for the second, I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna be taking Hardness, because a lot of classes actually have an ability to deal more damage when that's maxed out, when your health is maxed out, so that kind of counteracts it a little bit so you don't get it completely exploded. The third one we're gonna take is either Cadaverous Pillar, which that one's amazing for survivability, guys. That's your PvP survivability talent for fighting casters. As for Arena, if you're really good at it, go Dark Sim so you can take more CC and throw it back on the targets. That's if you're good, if you're fighting like mages and stuff. So really kind of think about which one of those you want to use. As for the next talent, I'm probably going to be taking either Necrotic Arroyo for dealing more damage in BGs, things like that, or Heartstop Arroyo, which causes everyone else to have decreased cooldowns. That would be really good for Arena, especially if I was going to sit healers. It would probably really piss them off, because then their cooldowns would offset to your cooldowns, and you'd really put in a lot of pressure to them. As for the next ability, you're either going to be using Tundra Stalker, which increases the damage on Frost Strike, snared targets, increases critical chance on rooted targets. So, I mean, really good for Frosty, as obviously since we root and stun, keep them frozen quite a bit. As for the other one, we're either going to be using Death Chill for survivability and maybe even Arena at sometimes, because like that is absolutely amazing for sticking on targets. A lot of classes have to use mobility and kiting at the moment, and Death Chill counters the living crud out of it, so it's really good for Frost Death Knights. As for the last one, I was kind of messing around with a different build. If you're playing with the spec, this crazy burst long breath spec, definitely take Chill Streak. Now, I mean, you could take Frozen Center to increase the radius for Remorseless Winter by 50% and increase the damage by 100%, but I still think Chill Streak's going to end up being more damage than using that build. Obviously, it does 7% of somebody's health. That's 7%. It actually bounces if there's multiple targets, dealing a maximum of 21% damage. As you know, 21% is not a laughable number. That's quite a bit if you use this ability correctly. And of course, within that breath and Obliterate's going off, Remorseless Winter's up, it's going to deal an insane amount of damage, especially if you got him stunned. So that's why we're rocking these talents going into this. It's actually a pretty hard spec to play compared to the other one as far as getting it to work correctly. This spec also has a bit more survivability than the other spec. As you guys know, Frost DKs don't have much survivability. This spec right here will give you more runic power gain and more potential to get runic power for more death strikes. Later on, as we go into like the artifact talent and increased healing, this spec will save your life more times than the other one will. As for the artifact talents, guys, right here is my artifact build right now. I'm definitely still farming up more artifact power, trying to finish this up. Basically what I did is I started with crystalline swords, went down to blades of frost, went down to nothing but boots, went down to frozen core, went down to frozen skin, dead of winter, straight to Syndragos's fury. That's basically where you call in Syndragosa. She flies over tops, hits everyone, just deals gnarly damage. In PvE, it'll hit for like 1.2 million, which is an insane amount. You can basically one-shot a giant group of mobs with it, so definitely get that as soon as possible. Really strong. From there, I backtracked a little bit back up to Frozen Skin to get Cold as Ice, which increases all frost damage you deal by 1%. Now, this was kind of an interesting decision. Now, if I wanted to maximize my PvP instantly, I'd go up top here and increase Death Strike heal for 100%. That's going to give us, like, our flip. That's going to be our main healing survival capability. And then I'd proceed up to increasing your range on your Frost Strike by 8 yards, which is absolutely amazing. Kiteable Frost Strike damage. And then I'd cut back and go inside this little circle in the middle, taking Ambidextry, Hypothermia, Bad to the Bone, and Mirror Ball. Now, I'm contemplating at this point that I may, for PvE, go inside the center first to do more damage, because this ability called Ambidexterity basically deals a ton of damage. Will increase your DPS of this spec that we're playing by a ton. Any spec, really. That's 10% damage of offhand damage. Offhands deal quite a bit of damage nowadays, guys. Like, it used to hit for a little bit, but they deal a ton of damage now. So increasing that just makes you hit like a monster. So I really kind of want to go in there and pick up these stacks on that. That'll increase it by 30% in the end. And obviously I already have it up once, so it's increasing it by 40% currently on this character. So just filling that up. As for relics, I've kind of thought, like, what relics do we really want? And as you can see, I'm using the Ambidexterity, which is absolutely amazing, increasing that by 10%. And the other one I'm using is increased Howling Blast damage by 10%. Now, if I had a choice between relics, I'd definitely take the hard damage buffs like Ambidexterity. You could go with actually like Ice in Your Veins, which increases your healing done, which I did that early on to give me kind of a flip heal for PvE. Really nice to use, but as of right now, I'm kind of going for that PvE sense, dealing more DPS, so I'm definitely going to take the raw damage. I'll probably keep that in there for PvP for the most part too. I mean, that's kind of the way I play. I just do less survivability, let's blow something up, have some fun. I mean, why not? But that sums it up for this little relic here, which way you should go, which way you should do it. As for like the Frost DK artifact quest line, it is pretty cool, guys. I'd say it's worth doing. The story's nice. As for the difficulty of it, I think it scales to your item level or something, because it was actually pretty hard. Even though I had the legendary ring, it was pretty difficult compared to some of the other things. It was interesting to say the least. So let's go ahead and jump over into rotation with this spec. Going over the general rotation for Frost DK, when you're not bursting, this is going to be your rotation. You're kind of just a little priority system. So the first thing you're going to want to do in any PvP situation is going to either apply chains first and or Howling Blast to apply your dot. Then you're going to go in on the target and use your obliterates to generate some runic power. If you get a Frost Strike, or a Howling Blast proc I mean, use it, obviously, because that's going to be one of your major damaging abilities. It's going to be your major AoE ability. Basically, it's like an obliterate that hits every target. Once you've got up a little runic power, you can either decide whether or not you want to burst or go into using Frost Strikes for more generation back towards your obliterates to generate more runic power. It's just a simple rotation between switching between obliterates and Frost Strikes back and forth until you see something shiny. You see something shiny, you hit it. Alright? So you're going to deal damage when you see something shiny. Hit it. Alright, now you go back to using Frost Strikes until you start procking up your obliterates again. And if you see an obliterate proc, you smash that and go back into using Frost Strikes. You got runes. You're going to go back to obliterates. You get a proc on shiny. You hit the shiny. You hit the shiny again. You hit the shiny again. Alright? So just the normal rotation is you hit the shiny, alright? So obliterates or Frost Strikes until you hit the shiny. If there's more than 5 targets, you can spam obliterates for some good consistent damage. And of course, if you're using Frost Scythe, use Frost Scythe if there's more than one target. And or if there's an obliterate proc, use your Frost Strike, because it will deal slightly more damage than obliterate, but will have less consistency single target. Alright, so that's going to be it for single target. Now, when you're maximizing damage, you will get a little downtime, so you will have to use, of course, Remorseless Winter when it comes up, and Horn of Winter during that downtime. So don't just use Horn of Winter during maximized cooldowns. You will have to use it in between, because it is only a 30-second cooldown, guys. You will want to use it outside of it to increase your DPS, obviously. Alright, so going into Lay Burst rotation, there's a couple ways you can do this. I mean, your main goal is to maximize on runic power. So you start out either chainsing a target or Howling Blasting them from range. It's kind of the approach. You don't want to go in on a target if you're planning on bursting them until you have to take damage. Unless you have a healer on you, in which case you just run in, go about that normal rotation we were talking about, and then go into burst. Now, if you want to deal like right up front maximum burst, it all matters about how you hit with your Syndragoz's Fury and how you use your obliterates. If you want to wait a little bit and generate a little more time before, full bursting, space out your obliterates a bit. So we're going to go in and burst on this target. I'm going to throw Syndragoz up front for maximum damage and then throw in our breath. Now for our breath, you just want to spam obliterates. Don't use Frost Strikes. Use your Howling Blast procs when they come up if you have enough runic power for that. And of course, use Horn of Winter as soon as you can. When you have downtime, generate up runic power to elongate your breath burst. Now, when do you use Hunger and Rune Weapon? Whenever you have nothing to keep it up and it reaches about 25 runic power, that's when you're going to proc that off and spam more obliterates to put it back to full and elongate the breath even further. So let me show you how to go about this big burst right here. We're getting actually a haste proc. So we're coming in on this guy. You're like, oh yeah, he's gonna kill us. Yeah, we're gonna throw up Remorseless Winter. We're gonna burst out our breath right here. Hit him with Breath of Syndragoz. It's gonna hit him really hard, and we're just gonna generate using the proc right there, spamming obliterates, using the proc again, spamming the shinies. Hit the shinies, guys. Hit the shinies. We're doing about 200k plus DPS at the moment. So yeah, that's about proc DPS. We do a bit more, of course, when we're in dungeons and other people and have a bit of buffs. But that's about how the burst goes. Throwing up about 20% right there. As you can see, we're peeking back up on it. Actually, we let our breath fall off there. See, as you see how we just made a terrible mistake. We let our breath fall off. That's going to kill our DPS by a lot. That's what a lot of people do. I let it get too low there. That was my mistake. That's something you guys don't want to do. Learn from it. I did not use the ability soon enough and proc up more. I expected to actually fill that gap, but I ended up not filling it, surprisingly. But as you can see, guys, that's how you go about using breath. Generally, I keep it up for 50, 60 seconds. And that time, I just kind of flaked it off and missed it. Don't know how. I really felt like I had a bit more runic power there. I was watching it. It was like 30%. And that's when I procced it. It totally should have kept it up. Anyways, we'll cutscene to the next little breath that comes up since I have to wait for these cooldowns. We're going to take a second whack at this burst right here. Alright, we're going to generate up our ruining power. I'm not going to worry about damage. I'll probably end up hitting those bunny rabbits. Probably that DPS in that background too. We're going to keep up with the breath for a while. Let's go ahead and we generate ruining power. We're going to wait around for a couple of our runes to proc. Looks like we have some of our unused trinkets and stuff procking right now too. They're going to go to waste. I don't care. We're doing it right. Let's do it. That only hit for about 800k. Usually hits a lot harder than that. If I wait to use Syndragoza until I have all my trinkets proc, things like that, it can actually hit. It can crit for like 2 million, which will amp up your DPS to like 4 to 500k in the opener. Absolutely insane when it hits for that much. I really had to use my cooldowns early there. Did not like that. That was not fun. It's going to actually cause our breath to be short, but I mean, it is going to still be longer than the other breaths we did. Because, I mean, we didn't even use it correctly those times. It was pretty bad. Right now, we're reaching about a 40-second breath. Using a horn again to fill this slot as our runes come around. Just spamming obliterates, trying to keep that up. Looks like we are about to break the 45-second marker. This is going to be a short one, it looks like. Not going to get off another obliterate. Going to dump runes into that. And we hit the... See, we had 8 seconds left on that cooldown. We hit 52-second breath, so that's not a bad breath at all, guys. If you can get over 50 seconds, you're definitely doing an alright breath. If you can get above a minute, you're doing exceptionally well. If you're geared enough to get it like, and of course the legendary items, you can get up to like almost 2-minute breath. I bet there will be a point where a DK is geared enough, if everything stays the same, where they can consecutively breath to the next cooldown of breaths, which will just absolutely be insane to see when it happens. I think it will. I think it will sometimes in this expansion, unless they nerf it, guys. Anyways, let's go ahead and discuss situational use of how to approach PvP situations as of currently, and then we'll go over healing. So besides having a healer with you, how do you approach going about dealing damage to somebody? So a lot of the time, if it's DPS versus DPS, you're going to want to generate your maximum burst as fast as possible on a Frost DK, since we have very low survivability, obviously. So we got to get there. Now, it's hard to get there without taking a lot of damage, so I'm going to kind of use this guy right here. And a lot of the times I use LOS, like arena situations, pillars, things like that. I'll just kind of use this, pop out, hit him with chains, pop out, hit him with chains, hit him with a Howling Blast, pop out, hit him with chains. And as you can see, I'm slowly generating up my runic power. And if you can get it up to, 30 to 40 runic power, you basically have enough runic power to get off a burst and hit enough obliterates to actually deal enough burst that it's effective to a target. Now, the higher you get it, the better off you're going to be in that fight against the other target. Obviously, kiting them out as much as possible. They get close to you. Wraith Walk, you can get away from somebody pretty easy with that ability. And, of course, kite them out. And once you get about maximum runic power, you're going to go in. And you're going to go into that burst rotation we just discussed and go ham on them. Keep moving. Use your chains. Jump back. Keep in on them. Use Remorseless Winter for stun inside, of course. And then throw up your major breath damage and hit them with Dragon. Deal as much damage as possible. And then if you need more survivability, kite back with chains and LOS. You're really going to have to kite and use chains a lot and control the situation as a Frost DK, as we don't have very much survivability unless we have the artifact talent right here, Ice in Your Veins, which causes it to heal for maximized 200%, I believe. I think you can get little slot item. No, is it 200%? We'll check right now. 2 or 300%. Oh, 300%. Now you can get little artifact items. You can get that up to 500% if you want. But again, it only applies for like 3 seconds. So really, I mean, maxing it out at 300% will be more than enough to full heal and 2 death strikes. So, I mean, we can kite out with that. And, you get low. You prop IBF and then spam death strikes twice. Maximize health and then start kiting out and or going into your rotation. One thing you guys got to remember is when you kill a target in PvP Battlegrounds, this is very important, is you get a death strike proc, which causes you to get a free death strike that heals for a ton. So if you have that, you have the artifact, you throw up IBF, you slap that one death strike proc on a target, that will full heal you back to full health. That's like a lay on hands if you use that. So guys, that's very key when it comes to consistent healing and keeping yourself alive, is basically using these to your advantage, otherwise you're going to die. Now as for stuns and stuff, since I'm human, I can deal with stuns a little better because I have every man for himself. But one of the things you need to be very careful of as for survivability when fighting rogues and stuff is using Icebound Fortitude early, since it's our only heal, is a terrible thing. If you're forced to do that, you're in a lot of trouble, guys. Icebound Fortitude, as in a 1v1 fight, needs to be waited on, needs to be later. It's like Death Pact. It has to be used further on down the road. Otherwise, you're in a lot of trouble. Now, with this spec, it's really nice because we have some runic power gains, like Hungarian Rune Weapon, Horn of Winter. So if we know a rogue's going to open on us in the next couple of seconds and he just went and visited something, we can actually pre-pop things, generate pre-runic power, and open burst on a rogue when they come out of us. Pre-trinket whatever he did, and full burst in his face. It's one of the only ways we can counter rogues, it seems, because of course they have so much survivability and so many resets. The only thing we can do is force them to play defensive. As for their opener. Now, it becomes a little bit easier, of course, as humans, since I have every man for himself, can throw that off the opener, break the combat, and deal quite a bit of damage. As for, let's see, anti-magic shell, of course we know what anti-magic shell does. It just makes it so, they can't hurt you. And, of course, it'll give you a little runic power gain if they are dealing damage to you. Now, if you take, what was it, the PvP talent? No, it's not PvP. It's a PvE talent. Where is it at? Volatile shielding, and basically as it absorbs more damage, but you won't generate runic power off of that. So when it expires, it also deals 25% damage back to the target, which is pretty cool. But I don't like the fact that it doesn't generate runic power. Now, if I'm in PvE and I'm fighting a boss that's dealing magic damage, and I pop anti-magic spell and stand inside of that damage, kind of like a mage hitting you, and I'm blowing off where's it at? And I'm using Breath of Sindragosa. That's actually going to keep up my Sindragosa a lot longer because it's going to fill some of those gaps. I may not have to use Horn of Winter as early. I may not have to use it twice. It may end up elongated it even further. So guys, you got to kind of plan on when to use Anti-Magic Shell with this spec a little bit. It's something I haven't really talked about or gone into. I don't even focus on it that much. I really need to focus on that a bit more. And using that anti-magic spell to absorb magic to generate more runic power to deal more damage, of course, with that breath. So that is quite amazing. That about sums it up for survivability, though. Like, we really do have low survivability for a lot of classes. But as long as you're bouncing, controlling the fight, guys, kiting is really going to be key this expansion for staying alive, being able to jump a bit, being able to run full speed ahead and kite behind you. It's going to be really key to do that on a Frost DK when it comes to 1v1ing, because I have to do that quite a lot, play my runic power, because I'm 1v1ing like a warrior or something. He runs in, we're DPSing on each other, I'm using my death strikes, I hit him up, I use my runes, and I get a little bit of downtime. I'm going to hit him with icy chains, get back, wait for a little bit more runic power, wait till he comes in, and then I'm going to go back in the fight, use my death strikes, dump my runes into him, and then I'm going to repeat that over and over again to a warrior, and make that kind of a system. Because kiting right now, it's a need, guys. It really is a need. You could get away with not kiting in Warlords of Draenor because of how strong our self-healing was, but you can't get away with doing that now. You really got to be able to kite for survivability on a Frost DK. It's kind of like it was back in Mist of Pandaria for self-survivability, but Frost DK's also had Asphyxiate then, so, I mean, we had a bit better of appeal. Now we really have to rely on that Icy Chains, especially from that honor talent, as you saw, if you want to be 1v1ing and stuff, and a little bit more survivability in PvP. Real quick, we're going to jump over to a request we got for PvE. Is how to deal with multi-targets out in the world events, out in leveling and things like that. Like, how do you mass pull on a Frost DK to generate the maximum amount of experience, and of course, getting quests done. So I got a quick little tutorial for you guys, so we're going to jump over to that. Mobs all level 110. Of course, they scale with your levels, so it's kind of at your strength. So what we're going to do here, of course, we're going to pull the mobs. They're going to run at us. What we're going to do is either kite it out a little bit to begin with to get up runic power and then go in on them, because what you're going to have to do is burst right away. So what you're kind of aiming for to do is cut down one mob with your single target while the splash damage, of course, is going out. So the next mob you hit, you're going to have a free death strike proc, so your death strike proc doesn't cost any runic power. It's also going to have increased healing. You're going to heal up, single target burst on the next target, burn it down, and then do it to the next target. And as you're progressing through, the death strikes will become faster and more I don't know, there's going to be up a lot faster, guys. There's going to be more of them as you go through, and each target you kill, you're going to generate that extra healing. So what I'm going to do here is actually turn around and pull 2 more. I just kind of randomly decided that. I don't know why. Go ahead and hit these guys. So how do you kite out to generate burst before they hit you? You can, of course, do it with chains. That's why you see me jumping and doing that stuff in PvP. Obviously, it's the best way to kite. All right, trying to hit that guy. I can't get up this hill. All right, cool. We got choked up a bit. All right, so we got full rooting power. We're going to drop back until they come in. Of course, I'm running with the Remorseless Winter talent, so I can stun these guys as they all come in close, using that free Death Strike, keeping up our rooting power so we have maximum damage, using the Death Strike proc, using Empowered Rune Weapon to keep up our abilities, and then using those free Death Strikes, of course. Now, if we need to, we can use extra Death Strikes, but mainly you're not going to rely on that, and using those procs. That's how you're going to multi-mob grind down on a Frost DK. Of course, as you level up with gear, since I'm 110, these mobs are actually a lot stronger feeling than they felt when I was like 109. So they hit me a bit harder, but as you can see, that's how you grind down multiple mobs. Of course, when you burst and you use Winter is Coming, you can stun basically everyone in that radius. There was like, I don't know, was there 5 mobs there? 5 mobs. So each one you kill basically, again, procs your Death Strike procs, use that after they die, use it on the next one. And the key is to keep up your breath through that whole thing while you're doing that. Of course, as it slowly takes down everybody, the Death Strikes become faster, and then that's the way you stay alive. And of course, if you need to kite out with chains, do so. But of course, keeping up the breath through that burst is going to be cool, going to be key. So let me know down in the comments below if you have any questions about Frost DKs, the rotation, PvP, anything like that, guys. I'll go ahead and try to answer those. And of course, leave a like on this, subscribe. Until next time, this was your boy Hazzed.